Detective Comics 1060, Mariko Tomaki and Nadia Shamash writing, with Ivan Reis on the art. Our last issue dealt with various citizens who were doing like really heinous, like murdering crimes, but then kind of confessed, but also were not really villainous or had any criminal history. So it was like something was either making them do it, forcing them to do it, whatever it may be. Meanwhile, Riddler's doing his radio show and is probably connected to it, but there was no sort of direct link as of yet. And then the other thing is that one of the potential victims was Deb Donovan's daughter, who is a judge, and Bruce. We start this issue with Bruce taking her out for a date, and that's where we kick off.
A cheap date.
Well, yeah, he's not rich anymore.
Oh, that was a running joke. Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah.
So she gets a little miffed at times. Bruce is asking, because he's doing a little detective work here. He's trying to like get some details and what might be going on, and she's not really having it. But yeah, and there's some jokes about how Deb would like investigate our dates in the past and other things like that. You know, I will say I do have like, I think the art generally from Reese, obviously he's a very good artist, and by and large,
Bruce is inconsistent.
Well, it's the one panel that really bothers me is that after he's shown her to the door, there's like him smiling through the window of the door. I think looks really comically simple. And
and the panel below that looks like so sinister.
Yeah, I think that's my problem with it, is that the very next panel, like he's so detailed and shady, then he's got all this expression in his face, and the panel before it is just this like flat smiling face. It's just like a happy smiley face.
Yeah. There's 2 pages before that as well. The top panel, it's like direct shot on Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
I can't quite place who he's modeled the face off, but it's someone specific that I recognize. It's like an actor or something.
Got a bit of a Chris Pine thing going, maybe.
Maybe that's not. I mean, that's not too far off, but it's. I don't think it's quite who I was going for. But I don't know. I can't quite place it. It's just off enough, but it's bugging me because I don't see it in any other panel except that one.
It's because it's much better. Generally, I think the art in this book is very good. I had a good time reading it. You know, I think his Riddler looks really good with a goatee, and you know, so
I'm digging the twirl on the mustache.
Oh yeah. So yeah, obviously Bruce is investigating things. You know, some nice panels of Batman up in a gargoyle in the Night City, all that sort of stuff. He goes to see Deb because there's someone broken into the paper, into the office, and they skedaddle before Batman like really needs to deal with that, and he finds like some brunette hair that maybe gives him a hint of where to look. So it's and it's like a match for Darby Turner. If I have a critique about this storyline, perhaps, which I am enjoying by and large, is that there are so many names of these like characters been thrown around that we barely know, that it's kind of hard to keep track of like who they're talking about at times.
Yeah, Darby Turner, I only know because I've read these 2 issues back to back. When Bruce visits Donovan in the hospital, she says they almost met once at Darby Turner's party. So that's where that connection comes from. Yeah,
because when the name came up, I was like, okay, go on. Explain to me who this is and why it's important.
Yeah, I think the odds of you remembering that a month later are slim.
Yeah.
It's peak writing for the trade.
Yeah. And it's not like the issue didn't make sense because of it or it threw too much of a hitch, but there was definitely a few names been thrown around that kind of took a minute to sort of recalibrate and kind of get into again. Batman goes to see this character but ends up finding Talia instead. Which, I was like, okay, Talia's here. It's kind of weird, obviously Talia's so heavily in the crossover right now in the other storyline, but obviously this is just kind of separate to that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, let's just do a chunk with Talia for some reason.
But she warns that Riddler, this is all Riddler playing with him, and she's listening to what he's saying because he's definitely putting in clues and whatever else. But the big crisis of the issue though is that Deb ends up being held at gunpoint by someone she was meeting, who again doesn't have a criminal past, seems to be someone who is otherwise normal, but is now holding Deb at gunpoint.
It's Darby Turner.
Yeah. Well, she uses a pseudonym though, because when Deb sees her, she says Miss Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
when Bruce gets there.
yeah. So she tricks her. Batman shows up, and there's a bit of a standoff. It's all very dramatic. You got the searchlights and all the rest of it looking up the side of the building, and this other guy runs in, and he's someone else who's also a victim of Riddler, and starts to actually finally say things that kind of make sense, like they're being forced. Like, if she doesn't do this, what's going to happen? You know, is going to be so much worse. That this is why they've been forced in. They've all been blackmailed essentially into doing these heinous things.
Yeah. Deb's been turning up that one of them had like maybe killed someone. They were like 15, but it kind of got covered up. There was like it was neglect from the parents, so it was all these circumstances. So there was never any record of it.
Yeah, some say like they were maybe accidental or whatever, but these are all things that aren't on record because they all went away in some fashion.
Yeah, and these are, I think, all people in the law profession, like police, judges, those sorts of things. The people who are supposed to be the good people, in theory.
Which leads to the cliffhanger, which is there's Deb's daughter who shoots this guy when he's about to start talking about everything and the envelopes that they're getting. There's a gunshot, and then it's her holding the gun. So it's like, oh wait, okay. So obviously Deb's heavily invested in this because her daughter now's been made to kill someone. There has to be consequences for that in some fashion, one way or another. So
yeah, which means she's also presumably being blackmailed.
Aye, Caroline, her daughter, yeah.
Yeah. There was some implication in the previous issue that she knew about the bombs beforehand. She didn't just like find them by chance.
Yeah, I don't even think it was an implication. Didn't she have like a whole conversation where she said something like, they were supposed to go off, or there's something, I can't remember exactly. It's been a month, but
yeah, she didn't know like the exact details of it all though, but she just knew kind of something about them.
Yeah. So I mean, actually, I'm enjoying the kind of the outright mystery of it, and Riddler's clearly connected to it, but he's just doing this kind of cocky radio host kind of thing going on right now. I don't think it's as tight as the last issue, and I think part of that is probably too many names been thrown around that I don't remember. But
yeah, that's fair.
I'm enjoying how much of a sort of not quite the same way that the movie did, of course, but it is very much like Riddler's playing with the city with all these clues and like taunting everyone.
I think I enjoy this equally as much as I did that movie.
I'm not sure what you're saying exactly there, but go on.
The movie's just fine. It's very overrated. It's like this story. It's fine.
I disagree on the movie quite substantially, but
no, it's fine. You can be wrong.
You can be underrating it and be wrong. That's fine. But I mean, so you're saying this issue is just fine? That's where you're landing on?
I mean, this issue, yeah, and kind of this, this story so far as a pairing, like it's fine. It's not setting my world on fire. I think it's got, like I say, it's got solid art from Reese for the most part. I think it, like I say, it feels a little bit clunky. There's a lot of names being thrown around. There's a lot of threads that I feel like it's being written for a trade, and it might read better in the trade. I don't know, in the long run, but monthly, it definitely feels like it's fragmented.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit fair. I mean, I'm still typically enjoying it, but there's definitely a few little hurdles there that probably will be cleaned up by just reading it in one sitting.
Yeah.
So, it's not a huge deal, but I am digging how different this feels to the more sort of big action that's going on in like Batman Shadow War. Like this is very different in terms of what type of story it's telling, which I appreciate.
No, I definitely agree with that. I always want Detective and Batman to feel pretty different.
Yeah.
So you've got that variety, and like this is definitely not a bad book by any means. Like this is perfectly solid. It's enjoyable enough. Like I don't feel like you're wasting your money by reading it.
No. Did you read the backup?
I didn't, just because of time.
Yeah, I didn't, because I saw like kind of what it was last issue and said, you know what,
Gotham Girl, yeah.
For the first time, I even know if it was. I don't even think I saw Gotham Girl necessarily, but whatever I saw, I was like, nah, I'm up to now of this one. Matt did read the last backup, but maybe he'll tell us next time how it's faring. But what are you rating the book?
I'll give it like a 6.5.
Yeah, I think I'm a comfortable point above you. I think 7.5 is kind of where I'm sitting. There's a few things knocking it down from being great, but Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's good.